She thinks she's in control because she left. She thinks walking away puts the ball in her court. But here's the twist. The real power begins the moment you say nothing. No texts, no calls, no explanations. Just silence. And that silence? It doesn't disappear. It lingers. It creates questions she didn't expect to ask herself. Because when a man pulls back, not to play games, but because he values his peace, it rewires the entire dynamic. In this video, we're diving deep into the psychology of what happens when you don't react, don't chase, and don't try to fix what she broke. Instead, you disappear into your focus, and that absence becomes the loudest thing she hears. Let's get started. Number 1. The echo begins. She walked away, expecting noise, texts, calls, explanations. But what she got was silence. She anticipated a reaction, a flood of messages asking what went wrong, a call in the middle of the night, some last-ditch attempt to pull her back. But instead, she was met with stillness, and it unsettled her. Because silence, when it comes from a man who used to care deeply, doesn't feel empty. It feels powerful. This is where the shift begins. Not in arguments, not in closure talks, but in your stillness. A Stoic man knows something most don't. When someone walks away, they're making a choice. And your role isn't to chase, but to respect that choice. So he stays quiet, not out of pride, not out of revenge, but because he values peace more than performance. Imagine this. She scrolls through her phone, expecting to see your name flash across the screen. A message, a missed call, something to confirm you're still there. But nothing comes. Days pass. Her confidence starts to waver. Was she really that sure you'd come back? Why haven't you tried? Did he move on that easily? Or worse, did he realize he deserves better? This is what happens when your silence is not passive, but intentional. You're not sitting by the phone, hoping she returns. You're recalibrating, rebuilding. You're reflecting on what truly matters. Like the Stoics taught, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. And so you stop imagining what she's thinking. You stop trying to decode her absence. Instead, you focus on what you can control. Your mind, your peace, your direction. And that's what unsettles her. She expected a storm. She got your calm. She expected resistance. She got your acceptance. She expected to be missed on her terms. But now, she's the one questioning herself in the silence. Let me ask you something. What's more haunting? A man who begs to stay, or a man who walks away with such grace that you start to wonder if you ever really knew him at all? That's the echo, my friend. And it only grows louder the more you stay silent. So stay the course. Stay grounded. You don't need to make noise to make an impact. Sometimes, the loudest message you can send is sent in silence. Number 2, emotional gravity shifts. You used to orbit her, checking in, caring, giving your energy freely. But now, you're gone, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And without that gravity, she floats in uncertainty. A Stoic understands. The strongest move is not always holding on. It's knowing when to release. And when you pull back, she starts to feel the emptiness. The emotional silence becomes louder than any words. You see, when you were present, answering her texts right away, showing up even when she pulled away, offering support when she was distant, your energy was anchoring her. You were her constant. But the moment you decided to stop orbiting, to stop pouring yourself into someone who couldn't meet you where you were, something shifted. And not just in you, in her. Suddenly, she's not sure where she stands. The attention she once took for granted vanished. The comfort of knowing you'd always be there? Gone. And now she feels something she didn't expect. Weightlessness, and not the good kind. This is where the real transformation begins. A Stoic man doesn't run after love that slips through his fingers. He doesn't beg for clarity where confusion was offered. He doesn't demand attention when he feels neglected. No, he steps back, not with resentment, but with purpose. He withdraws his energy, his peace, his presence, not to punish her, but to protect himself. And in that space, something powerful happens. She begins to realize what your presence actually meant. She starts to notice the contrast. Your silence becomes a mirror, showing her the emotional noise she never paid attention to before. Imagine this like emotional gravity. You were the one grounding her, even when she didn't acknowledge it. And now that you're not chasing, not reacting, not explaining yourself, she feels adrift. And that sensation, it lingers. She rereads old messages. She wonders what you're doing. She checks your profile, hoping for a sign you're still orbiting. But the stillness haunts her more than any dramatic goodbye ever could. So stay silent, not as a game, not out of bitterness, but as an act of self-respect. Because when a man reclaims his gravity, when he stops centering someone who didn't value his presence, he becomes the one who truly moves the dynamic. She may have walked away, but you walked inward. And that shift? That's what she never saw coming. If you've ever felt the weight of always being the one who cares more, who tries harder, who holds things together, drop a comment below and share your thoughts. Or simply type, "I've reclaimed my gravity." I'd love to know which part spoke to you most. And if this message brought you clarity, strength, or even a little peace, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps more men find their center too. Now, let's keep going, because what happens next might surprise you even more. Number 3, reflection replaces reassurance. She waits for the apology, the check-in, the long message filled with what went wrong. But it never comes. Now she's left alone, not just physically, but mentally. There's no one feeding her reassurance anymore, and for the first time, she has to reflect, not react. That's the power of your silence. It forces her to look inward. You see, in the past, she was used to emotional padding. You were her safety net, the one who always explained, who reassured, who tried to hold things together even when it was falling apart. Every time there was distance or conflict, she expected you to be the one to fix it. That's what she counted on. Your need for closure, your habit of checking in, your emotional loyalty. But this time, you didn't follow the script. You didn't reach out. You didn't fill the space with desperate words or apologies she didn't earn. Instead, you let the silence breathe. And in that silence, something unexpected happens. She has to sit with herself. That's what hits her hardest. Not your absence, but the weight of her own mind with no distractions. She thought you'd fight for clarity. Instead, you gave her uncertainty. She thought you'd beg for another chance. Instead, you chose dignity. This is where Stoicism makes all the difference. You didn't go quiet out of spite. You went quiet out of strength. Like Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." You didn't match her emotional chaos with more chaos. You matched it with composure. That's unsettling. That's powerful. When you pull back, you remove the emotional noise, the drama, the push-pull cycle. And without it, she starts hearing something new. Her own thoughts, her own guilt, her own doubts. Maybe for the first time, she questions whether letting you go so easily was a mistake. Maybe she begins to feel what she never allowed herself to feel before: regret. And not because you made her feel it, but because your absence made room for it to surface. And here's what makes it even more powerful. You're not sitting in silence, waiting for her to come back. You're not playing a manipulative game. You're just living, growing, healing. You've redirected your energy back into yourself, your purpose, your peace. And when a man does that, when he walks away without bitterness, when he respects a woman's decision without resistance, it leaves a mark, a deep one. So let her reflect. Let her wonder. Let her feel what it's like when a man no longer tries to prove his worth with words, but protects it with silence. Because that silence, it doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means everything is finally starting to. Number 4, the illusion of control breaks. She thought she could leave, and you'd be there when she got back. Maybe not right away, but eventually. But your silence? It shattered that illusion. You didn't fight for a place you were no longer welcomed in. That's not weakness, it's self-respect. As the Stoics say, don't explain yourself. Your actions are your truth, and your action was withdrawal. You see, many women walk away not always because they've stopped caring, but because they believe they have time. They expect a man's presence to remain, even in absence. That he'll wait. That he'll reach out when the silence grows too heavy. That eventually he'll prove his love by not giving up. But when you stay silent, not out of anger, but out of dignity, it disrupts that pattern. It forces her to confront a possibility she never planned for. Maybe he really let go. Imagine her scrolling through old texts one night, expecting to see a new message from you. Something soft, something that says, "I still care." But there's nothing. Days go by, weeks. That familiar comfort of your energy is gone. And now she's left replaying what she thought was control. That's when the illusion breaks. That's when reality sets in. And that's when she starts to feel your absence in a way she didn't expect. A Stoic man doesn't chase. He doesn't plead. He doesn't try to convince someone of his worth. He simply lives in alignment with his values. He knows that the highest form of strength is composure, and sometimes that means letting go with grace. You didn't create drama. You didn't try to win her back through noise. You let your absence speak. And trust me, it's speaking volumes now. Your silence is not punishment. It's presence, just a different kind, a quieter one. And when the illusion of control breaks, she starts to realize something powerful. You weren't waiting, because you were evolving. So ask yourself this: are you clinging to someone who left? Or are you becoming someone she never expected to lose? Let me know in the comments. What does your silence mean to you right now? Or simply type, "I choose peace over chasing." If this resonated, don't forget to like the video. We've still got more to uncover, because when you stay silent, that's only the beginning. Keep watching. Number 5, your calm becomes the contrast. Out there, she'll meet men who talk a lot, but say nothing, who react quickly, but think slowly. And suddenly, your calm stands out. You didn't need attention. You had presence. That's what Stoicism teaches. True strength doesn't shout. It remains still. And when everything else is noise, she remembers your quiet depth. You see, after she leaves, her world doesn't slow down. It speeds up. New men try to impress her with fast compliments, playful banter, and grand gestures. It might feel refreshing for a moment, but slowly, that attention starts to feel hollow. Because what's missing isn't excitement. It's authenticity. And that's where your silence starts to haunt her, not because it's loud, but because it holds weight. While others rush to speak, to prove themselves, to fill the air with charm, you didn't. You chose restraint. You chose stillness. You chose to let your absence speak instead of forcing your presence. That's not easy to do. It takes discipline. It takes belief in your own worth. And that's what Stoicism is really about. Not being emotionless, but being unshaken. You could have texted. You could have begged. You could have explained. But instead, you stood in the fire of uncertainty and said nothing. Why? Because you knew that peace is never found by chasing chaos. You don't prove your value by pleading. You reveal it by letting her feel the silence she created. Now picture her months later, sitting across from someone who tries to be funny, who dominates the conversation, who asks but doesn't really listen. And as she nods along, politely smiling, her mind drifts to you, to how it felt when you didn't need to impress her, when your energy wasn't scattered but grounded, when you didn't interrupt, when you didn't have to prove anything. You were just calm. And suddenly, she realizes how rare that is. You see, your silence didn't just speak, it created a contrast she didn't appreciate at first, but now it lingers in her mind. That's the kind of presence a Stoic man brings. You're not the echo. You're the stillness after the noise. You're not the performer. You're the presence that needs no stage. And that contrast? That's what makes her reflect. Not just on you, but on who she thought she wanted and what she might have walked away from. So don't break your silence just to be heard. Let it keep working. Let the world around her highlight what she gave up. Because when you stay calm after the storm, when you remain still while others chase, you become unforgettable. Not because you demanded it, but because your absence reminds her of everything your presence once gave. And that's when she'll understand. Not all men are created equal. Some are loud. Some are persistent. But very few have the power to be silent and still be remembered. Number 6. The doubt creeps in. She told herself it was the right decision, that walking away would somehow give her clarity, power, or peace. Maybe she thought you'd chase after her. Maybe she assumed that, like most men, you'd come unraveling at the seams, sending long messages, asking for closure, trying to fix what she broke. But days turned into weeks, and the silence? It didn't break. It deepened. And that's when the doubt started creeping in. Not because you fought for her, but because you didn't. You see, your silence wasn't empty. It was full of meaning. You didn't fill the space with desperate apologies or emotional outbursts. You left her with nothing but herself. No texts to dissect, no calls to ignore, just stillness. And in that stillness came the mirror. A mirror that reflected not only your composure, but her own confusion. Why didn't he try to win me back? Did I misread him? Was he stronger than I thought? Those questions don't come all at once. They come slowly, like drops of water falling in a quiet room. But they don't stop. This is where Stoicism whispers its truth. A man anchored in self-respect doesn't try to explain his worth. He lives it. He doesn't go to war for a place that no longer welcomes him. He walks away, not because he doesn't care, but because he's at peace with losing anything that isn't meant for him. And that's what shakes her. Not your anger, not your tears, but your stillness. Consider this. Out there, she may meet men who say all the right things, but live with emotional chaos. Men who promise presence, but disappear under pressure. And then there's Yuo, The one who didn't beg, didn't chase, didn't fold. That quiet strength, it lingers, it haunts, because it speaks to something deeper than charm or chemistry. It speaks to character. Now she wonders if she misunderstood you, if your calm wasn't indifference, but discipline, if your silence wasn't surrender, but self-control. The doubt creeps in because you did something she didn't expect. You honored her decision and your dignity at the same time. And not many men know how to do that. So if you're sitting in your silence, wondering if it makes a difference, know this: it does. It plants seeds of reflection where she expected chaos. It rewrites the narrative without a single word. And maybe, just maybe, it makes her wish she had seen you more clearly before she let go. Number 7. Your growth haunts her comfort. You didn't just disappear, you elevated. You got healthier, sharper, more focused. While she scrolled through temporary highs and empty validation, you were quietly building strength, building habits, building a life that didn't orbit around her approval. The man she assumed would fall apart didn't flinch. He didn't chase. He didn't explain. He got better. And that haunts her more than your silence ever could. Because now she sees that the man she left behind no longer exists. The man she let go has outgrown the space she created when she walked away. You stopped showing up where you were once tolerated, and instead of waiting by the emotional door she slammed behind her, you found a different path. One lined with discipline, purpose, and a calm that rattles the noise she surrounds herself with. That's what Stoicism looks like in real life. Not loud revenge, not dramatic gestures, but quiet, consistent evolution. You didn't grow to prove her wrong. You grew to stop betraying yourself. She thought your absence would mean you were hurting, that you were lost in confusion, waiting for closure or clarity from her. But what she didn't expect was your peace. Your peace speaks louder than any words you could have sent. It says, "I chose myself." And the more you grow in silence, the more that message echoes in her mind, especially when she sees glimpses of the man you're becoming and realizes he's no longer within reach. Picture this. She checks your profile out of curiosity, just a quick peek. But what she finds isn't sadness, it's strength, a calm presence. You look like a man who made peace with the past and is now sculpting a future with clarity. That unsettles her because it proves one thing: you didn't just survive the goodbye, you thrived in it. That kind of growth is intimidating to anyone who thought they had control over your value. And here's the core of it all. Your silence wasn't passive. It was powerful. It was intentional. It gave you time to become what you were always capable of being. A man rooted in self-respect, driven by purpose, and unmoved by drama. That's the essence of Stoic masculinity. While she was hoping you'd spiral, you aligned. While she was waiting for a message, you were mastering yourself. Now, when she looks back, she doesn't see a man waiting. She sees a man rising. And that contrast, it haunts the comfort she thought she had in walking away. So before we move forward, take a moment and really think about this. Have you ever felt the power of becoming unrecognizable? Not from bitterness, but from growth? When someone expected your silence to be weakness, but it turned out to be transformation. If that resonates with you, I'd love to hear your story. Share your thoughts in the comments. Because this journey isn't just about her seeing the change, it's about you owning it. Now, let's go even deeper. Because what happens next is where your presence starts to echo in places she never expected. Number 8. She starts talking to herself. She doesn't hear from you, So she starts answering her own questions. Was he angry? Did he care at all? Did he ever love me? And the longer your silence lingers, the louder her inner dialogue becomes. At first, she may have felt relief, thinking the breakup gave her clarity. But now, that clarity turns to confusion. Because when you didn't rush in to explain yourself, defend your actions, or beg for closure, she had to fill in the blanks herself. And that's when doubt creeps in. Her mind becomes the battlefield, not because you attacked, but because you vanished with grace. She replays conversations, tries to remember the look in your eyes during your final moments together, searches your silence for hidden meaning. That's the paradox. When a man says nothing, the silence speaks more than 1,000 desperate words. Imagine she walks into a familiar cafe a few weeks later, the same one you used to visit together. She orders the drink you used to tease her about. She sits down and instinctively checks her phone. Nothing. No message. No, "How are you?" And suddenly, she realizes. She expected you to reach out, even just once. But you didn't. And now, her mind spirals. She wonders if maybe she wasn't as unforgettable as she thought. Or worse, maybe you were stronger than she believed. And you are. Because your silence is not punishment. It's presence. It's the presence of a man who doesn't chase what chose to walk away. A man who trusts that the truth always returns to the surface, even if it has to bubble up through someone else's regret. Stay silent. Let her talk, even if it's only to herself. Because the questions she asks in your absence, those are the echoes of your strength. And she'll hear them every time the silence reminds her, you never needed to explain your worth. You simply embodied it. Number 9, she tests the water. A meme. A "hope you're doing well." A like on your story. It's not love, it's a breadcrumb. A test. She's poking the silence, hoping it'll break. But a man rooted in Stoicism doesn't chase bait. He stays grounded. If her reach isn't genuine, he doesn't reach back. Because here's what's really happening. She left, but part of her expected a door to stay cracked open. A backup plan. A man waiting in the wings, just in case. So she throws out small signals, not to reconnect, but to gauge your reaction. One like, one casual message, one inside joke sent at 2 a.m. And if you bite, she knows she still has you. But if you stay silent, now she's the one wondering. You see, when you don't engage, it's not about ego. It's about intention. Stoicism teaches us not to react from impulse, but to respond from reason. You're not being distant to hurt her. You're being present for yourself. And that's the key difference. Most men chase these breadcrumbs because they're still emotionally starving. But you've started feeding yourself. With purpose, with peace, with progress. Let me give you a picture. She leaves, you give her space. A week later, she sends a funny meme you once laughed at together. She's testing if the bond is still there. But a stoic man doesn't jump. He reads the moment, examines the intent, and asks, does this move me closer to peace or pull me back into chaos? And when it's unclear, he waits. Because clarity doesn't come from chasing. It comes from stillness. This silence you're holding, it's not cold. It's disciplined. You're not withholding out of spite. You're letting her feel the absence she once requested. That's powerful, and it's rare. Because in a world addicted to instant replies and emotional validation, the man who can sit in silence becomes unforgettable. She might tell herself, he's playing games. But deep down, she knows. It's not a game. It's growth. And the reason that breadcrumb didn't pull you back in is because you're not standing in the same place she left you. You've outgrown that old version of yourself, the one who needed to be needed, the one who confused attention for affection, the one who mistook noise for connection. Now, you value depth over distraction, peace over performance, and real connection over emotional tests. So the next time she tests the water, stay still, stay firm. If she wants to reach you, let it be with substance, not signals. Let her see that the man who once would have jumped has finally learned to stand. So before we continue, take a moment to reflect. Have you ever mistaken a breadcrumb for a comeback? Have you ever felt tempted to respond, not because it brought you peace, but because it stirred your hope? If any part of this hit home, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts, or simply type, "Stillness is strength." This space isn't just for listening, it's for growth. And sometimes, hearing your own truth reflected back is all it takes to stay grounded. Ready to go deeper? Let's move forward. Number 10. You become the mystery. She used to know everything, your thoughts, your schedule, your feelings. Now, nothing. That vacuum becomes haunting. Who is he with? What is he doing? Why do I still care? You've become the unknown, and a Stoic man knows. The less he reveals, the more powerful his presence becomes. Mystery, when paired with peace, is unforgettable. Let's break this down. When she walked away, she thought she'd still feel in control. Maybe she figured you'd check in, post something cryptic, maybe even reach out after a few days just to see how she's doing. But instead, you vanished into your own world, not with bitterness, not with spite, just quiet self-respect. She scrolls, hoping to see something. She waits, thinking you'll slip up and break the silence. But you don't. And that silence? It doesn't just confuse her, it consumes her. You see, a man grounded in Stoicism doesn't explain his every move. He doesn't feel the urge to correct the assumptions others make about him, because he understands that his value isn't up for negotiation. You no longer hand over your emotions like free samples. You've pulled it all back. And when she realizes that what she once had full access to, your time, your thoughts, your warmth, is now behind a locked door she no longer holds the key to, the curiosity turns into obsession. Here's the beautiful paradox. You didn't change to impress her. You evolved to honor yourself. You got quieter not to provoke a reaction, but to protect your peace. And that decision, that withdrawal from the emotional arena she once ruled, is what makes you unforgettable. When a man stops broadcasting his emotions, his moves, his intentions, he becomes a mystery. And mystery is the seed of attraction, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. Now she's left replaying conversations, stalking old pictures, wondering if she misjudged you. The man she thought would fall apart didn't just survive, he transformed. And because you no longer offer updates, she has to imagine them. And imagination, fueled by silence, is far more powerful than any explanation you could give. This is what happens when you stay silent after she leaves. You stop being her predictable story. You become the unanswered question. The man who didn't just walk away, but walked upward, inward, and beyond her reach. So now you know, silence is not retreat. It's not weakness. It's a message, a mirror, and a movement all in one. When you stop chasing and start honoring your peace, everything changes. Not just how she sees you, but how you see yourself. You're no longer the man waiting for closure or validation. You've become the man she didn't expect to lose, and now can't stop thinking about. If this video spoke to something deep in you, drop a comment below and share your thoughts, or simply type, "My silence is my power." I'd love to hear what part hit home the most for you. And if this gave you clarity, strength, or even just a moment of calm, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps the message reach other men on their journey too. And don't stop here. Check out the videos on screen now. Each one is crafted to help you stay grounded, grow stronger, and walk your path with purpose and composure. Thanks for watching. Stay disciplined, stay calm, and above all, protect your peace.